Welcome back to Elevation 44, where we learn how to master our energy, and we do that through three main areas: spirituality, astrology, and holistic living. It's your girl B, and if you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you are returning, glad to have you back, fam. So today I'm getting into a series that I want to kick off because I think that this is going to be helpful to so many of you who look at your birth or natal charts. And this series is all going to be about the forgotten aspects of a birth chart or a natal chart. Things that people forget to look at that actually give you huge insight into your personality, why you're wired the way you are, why you do, what you came to learn here in this lifetime. This actually gives you even more depth into that, okay? Now, if you are new to the whole birth chart or natal chart, thing, I would encourage you to go back and look at my video on how to find your career on your birth chart. The first 15 minutes of that video, I really spend explaining what a birth chart is and how to read one or how to easily understand it. So I'm going to go ahead and link that in the description box below so that you have that information. So I would definitely pause. If you know nothing about a birth chart, I would definitely pause, go watch that, okay, get caught up, and then come back and continue watching this, because you have to have some base level understanding of what a birth chart is anyway. But in just a nutshell, a birth chart is a very vital tool, or a very great way to find out, again, why you're wired the way you are, what particular strengths and weaknesses you have, what lessons you came to learn in this lifetime or to master in this lifetime as you are continuously ascending, okay? So that is why we focus so much on the birth chart, because it really is a wonderful tool. I like to think of it as a navigation system that you can use to your advantage to help you kind of, navigate this thing called life, because sometimes it's not easy and sometimes we need some guidance. So let's take whatever tools that we can to help us along the way, okay? And it's just an expression of all the energies that live inside of us, from the outside influences to the inside. So as above and so below. So it's just, we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, which is the universe, okay? So all of those energies that are out there are in here. And that's why we really study our birth charts, to get a better understanding, or we study astrology to get a better understanding of how the two are connected and how we can use that to help us, okay? So, like I said, this whole series is going to be the forgotten elements of the birth chart. And so I want to make this a 3-part series because I just don't want these videos to be too long. And I say that every time, and I feel like they're getting longer and longer and longer. And I just don't want to pack too much information in one video. I want you to be able to digest each piece separately so that you can really wrap your head around it. So the first thing that we're going to get into, which is part 1 of this video, is elements and qualities, okay? And the reason why we're going to focus on elements and qualities is because, again, it can give you major personality insight. Now, what are elements? Elements are basically the 4 elements of fire, water, earth, and air, okay? So we have our fire signs, which are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. We have our earth, which fall under Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. We have our air, which is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, and our water elements, which are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, okay? And each one of those elements has certain aspects of it that kind of help tie, or like there are qualities that translate across those signs that fall underneath the element, okay? So the reason why we want to figure out or pay attention to our elements is to find out, where are we dominant, what are we element dominant in, or where are we deficient in? Like, what energies are we like, boom, we're really dominant in, and what energies are we deficient in? Because if you know where your dominant energies are and your deficient energies are, you can bring an equilibrium or a balance and be aware of that, okay? And you know what to use to your strengths, and you also know where you fall short and where you can pull energy from the outside, or to, work on certain energies on the inside to help you kind of balance that all off, okay? So, the elements, to find your dominant versus your weak elements, we need to use the elements formula, okay? So basically, in a very simple nutshell, the elements formula is literally looking at your entire birth chart. And if you, again, have not seen that video, you're going to need 3 pieces of key information to pull up your birth chart. You're going to need your date of birth, you're going to need your time of birth, and you're going to need your location of birth, okay? Whatever city you were born in, you need to have that information, because that is going to give you the most accurate birth chart, so that you have the information that you need to work with. But once you have that, and you have your birth chart pull up, or if you're very familiar with your birth chart already, what you want to do is look at all of your planetary placements on your birth chart. Now, what you want to do is assign a point for each element that the planet falls in. So, if your Saturn falls in Capricorn, you're going to put a point under Earth, because Capricorn falls under the Earth element. So you want to put a point for Saturn under Earth. If your Neptune falls under Pisces, you want to go ahead and put one point under water. And then you're going to add them up like that. Now, with the elements formula, a lot of people assign, because the sun and the moon are such a huge influence on us, more influence than the other planetary placements or energies, that some people assign 2 points for sun and 2 points for the moon. So, whereas you would assign 1 point for every other planet, the sun and the moon would get 2 points. So, if your sun is in Taurus, you would put 2 points under Earth for the sun. So I hope that makes sense. And so what you want to do is you want to go ahead and add all of that up, and you want to figure out what number of points you got in each element. So if you got 5 points in Earth, if you got 2 points in fire, 0 in air, and 3 points in water, and you're going to have your full. It should sum up to 10. If we are, I want to say 10 should be the. It should sum up to 10. I just wanted to make sure. So if you're using 2 points for the sun and 2 points for the moon, you should have a total of 10 points, and that should be broken out into the different elements, okay? Now, once you have that number, you can find out where you are dominant or you're deficient. Now, I'm going to use myself as an example so you can understand this a little bit better. I have 5 points under the fire element, 0 points under earth, 2 points under air, and 3 points under water. So I am fire dominant. Even though I am a Cancer sun, which is a water element, a lot of my energy is dominated by fire, the fire element. So when you're fire dominant, you're energetic, you're active, you're enthusiastic, you're passionate, you're expressive, you take initiative, you're impulsive, you're outgoing, and that is like the fire, the great, aspects of that fire element. But again, you can be impulsive and you can be hot-headed and, quick-tempered. So those are some of the things that you have to watch for when you're fire dominant. If you have no fire energy or very little fire energy, it's called fire deficiency, right? So then you have difficulty putting ideas into action, and you do not promote yourself aggressively, okay? So this is why we need to know what where we're dominant and where we're deficient, because we need to know or understand where our strengths and our weaknesses lie. Now, if you're earth dominant, which means you have a lot of earth energy, you're practical, you're stable, you seek security, you're patient, you're strong-willed, and you're able to focus on long-term goals, okay? But if you're deficient in this area, you're impractical. You have trouble with money. You can be lazy or lax with work. You get impatient if results take too long, okay? And I felt that because, your girl has no earth energy at all except for my Cap rising. And that's not a planetary placement, so that it doesn't even factor into this formula. But I definitely can feel some of this these deficiencies, and I'm definitely like yep, and yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the air. So if you're air dominant, you're communicative, you're intelligent, you're cerebral, you're a quick thinker, you're good with writing and speaking, and you're rational. If you're air deficient, you have many misunderstandings. So there can just be a cross, like your communication is just always off in some way, shape, or form, okay? So this is why this is so important. Again, that's why I'm bringing this information to you guys. Now, if you're water dominant, you're emotional, you're intuitive, you're sensitive to your environment and people, you're creative, you're imaginative, and you're empathetic. If you're water deficient, you're insensitive, you could be selfish, and you can have difficulty expressing emotion, okay? So again, these are not sentences. These are your birth chart or your natal chart is not a sentence to you're stuck this way because the chart says so. These are qualities or aspects of our personality that we can continue to develop and shape the way we want. We just need to understand what we're working with at the base. Okay, so I tell you these things not to say, oh, you're condemned to being insensitive or selfish if you're water deficient. It's like, these are the qualities that you may have, and these are the things that you need to be aware of and work on, okay? So that is pretty much our element dominant and deficiencies, okay? Now, let's get into our qualities. Now, the qualities of the birth chart are cardinal, fixed, and mutable, okay? So cardinal, the zodiacs that fall under this this quality are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And the cardinals are the initiators. They're the starters. They are like the starting team. They get up and they get things popping and, they get things moving, okay? Then we have our fixed signs. We have Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Now, the fixed ones are the closers. If the cardinals are the starters, the fixed quality or the fixed signs are the closers. That energy closes things out, seals the deal, gets things completely wrapped up, okay? And then we have our mutable quality, which is our mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And these are our adaptable players. They are the ones who carry it from the cardinal to the fixed, which is the closer. They help bridge that gap. So what we want to do is the same thing. We want to, again, have that same, chart where we then write down, okay, so I have my sun in Cancer, so I'm going to put 2 points because the sun and the moon carry 2 points. I'm going to put 2 points under cardinal because Cancer is under the cardinal sign, okay? And so then you want to add things up that way. You have your Neptune in Sagittarius, okay? So that is a mutable sign. So you're going to put 1 point under mutable, and then you're going to add them up that way. And then again, you should still have 10 points, and it should be divvied up into the different qualities. Now, let's talk about the dominant versus deficient qualities. When you are cardinal dominant, which is very, very true of my chart, I pretty much have mostly all cardinal energy with a little bit of mutable energy. But when you're cardinal dominant, you're open to change, you take action, you're initiator, okay? You're a starter, you get things popping. You usually try to change or influence your external environment. You can be restless, impatient, and domineering, okay? So those are the qualities of, being cardinal dominant. Now, when you're cardinal deficient, you lack initiative. That's like the basic thing. You really lack the initiative to push things forward, to get things started, okay? When you are fixed dominant, you are resistant to change. You are one track. You have like a one track mind. You can be stubborn. You can be rigid, and you try to mold your environment at will. Okay, so you're more focused on, if the cardinal energy is trying to influence this external environment through its actions, you as as fixed dominant are trying to mold your environment at will, okay? Now, if you are deficient in fixed quality, you lack endurance or stability, okay? And again, this is sometimes a harsh reality to think about or to deal with, but it is so helpful to understand. Now, if you're mutable dominant, you're changeable, you're flexible, you're mentally explorative, you have a lot of intellectual activity, you can be unreliable, unable to accept responsibility, and you are also very adaptable to your environment, okay? Now, when you're mutable deficient, you lack adaptability, okay? So you have a really hard time, you know, dealing with change and changing environments, and you're just, you're kind of fixed in your own way. So this is pretty much it in a nutshell. I hope that you're able to like take this information, use that elements formula, figure out where your element dominant and deficient, where your qualities are dominant or deficient, and so that it can help give you a little bit more insight into your personality and kind of why we're wired the way we are and what our strengths and weaknesses are, because these are the things that are going to help us go even further and advance even further, okay? Because we don't have time to waste. Like, time is moving. Like, we are halfway through 2020 already, and I know it's been one hell of a year, okay? This is one for the books, but the time is moving nonetheless, and so we got to take every little piece of advantage, every tool, everything that we can, take and use so that we can, get this thing popping, because time is waiting for no one here. All right, so I hope that this is helpful to you. Leave me a comment down below if you discover anything new, or maybe you already knew these things. Maybe you're like, oh, this is confirmation, or I already knew this, or whatever. If you, want to highlight anything else that, we will be actually focusing on the chart types, which is going to be part 2. We're going to talk about chart types next. And then part 3, we're going to talk about hemispheres and quarters, okay? So I have a lot more information, but if there is something else that is usually, you feel like is a usually forgotten aspect of the birth chart that people forget to look at or pay attention to, leave that in the comments below. Let me know, contribute to the team, and I will definitely see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Peace.